name's Melissa Kelly, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow with the Borders and Globalization project. I've been working at Carleton University for the last 2 years in the Geography department alongside Victor Conrad. Today I'm here to discuss my PhD dissertation completed in 2013, titled Onward Migration, the Transnational Trajectories of Iranians Leaving Sweden. So just to give you some background on this work, the belief that migrants simply move to a single country to integrate, acquire citizenship, and stay in that country is less true today than in the past. Increasingly, migrants follow complex trajectories. Globalization has created new possibilities for people to move from place to place for varying lengths of time and for various reasons. Think of all the retirees moving south temporarily only to move back home a few months later before moving south once again, or all the temporary workers moving across borders periodically on short-term contracts. Think of people who move abroad as students, stay in a country for 5 years only to return home, and all those who move from their place of origin, stay in the country of destination for a while, and then decide to return home. All of these possibilities for mobility have created opportunities for people to explore opportunities across space. And this is probably particularly true for refugees who are forced to leave their countries of origin and forced to create homes elsewhere. My PhD dissertation focused on people who moved to Sweden, stayed in Sweden for a period of time, often more than 10 years, acquired Swedish citizenship, acquired Swedish language skills, and then subsequently decided to leave Sweden for countries such as the UK, the US, and also Canada. I wanted to understand this onward migration, the special trajectory that these people are following, and what it means for understanding borders in a time of increasing mobility and globalization. I did this research by using multiple methods. I did a statistical analysis to explore who was moving on from Sweden and what characteristics they had that were different from those who choose to stay in Sweden. I also interviewed organizations that deal with Iranian immigrants in Sweden, and I interviewed onward migrants themselves to better understand their migration trajectories and their reasons for moving on. And what I found is that this is a highly motivated group of people who are interested in maximizing opportunities to integrate. Hence, they were very disappointed in Sweden. They felt that as refugees, they couldn't fully achieve their ambitions in the Swedish context, and they subsequently decided to look for opportunities elsewhere. Many of these people, interestingly, were quite young. They had either been born in Sweden or had spent most of their lives there. They were university educated and often highly skilled, and yet they felt that they couldn't develop a complete sense of belonging in Swedish society due to discourses that depict refugees as victims who should basically just be happy to receive social assistance. So what are the key takeaways from this research? We tend to think of migration in terms of national migration and integration models. That is, the focus is on understanding how many migrants a country will take and how they intend to integrate those migrants into the labor market, and so on. This is obviously important. We still live in a world that's based on the sovereignty of the nation state. That said, I think it's also important to think beyond this limited perspective to understand the complex migration pathways that migrants increasingly take in their attempt to achieve integration in multiple places simultaneously. Refugees, like other migrants, should not be considered passive victims, but rather agents looking for opportunities with the motivation to find those opportunities. They are also people who frequently maintain ties to multiple parts of the world simultaneously, and this facilitates movement between places. Often they have access to information about opportunities in different places, and they also have networks of people in different places who can help them to move from one country to another to find work, housing, and so on. Hence, migration and integration are intimately linked. with migrants sometimes moving multiple times in order to successfully achieve integration beyond their country of origin. Another important point I would like to make concerns categories. As my study has demonstrated, migrants may move initially as refugees, but then they may become skilled migrants. And a lot of this just simply depends on context. In the case of my participants, they came to Sweden as refugees in search of safety, but because of their ambitions, their education, and their high level of skill, they very quickly were able to move as skilled migrants as they were perceived in the British context. So I would say it's important to avoid thinking of people in terms of categories and instead to see them rather as people with aspirations and contributions to make. So with regards to the current influx of refugees to Sweden and other European countries, I have a few additional comments. I'd like to note that onward migration is likely to continue. There's now a sizable Syrian global diaspora in Europe and beyond, and they are connected by all kinds of linkages and networks. This may encourage onward migration flows. National governments may want to prepare for this by thinking about how they may want to retain these refugees that they are investing in terms of education and integration measures, to prevent the loss of human capital that might occur. Alternatively, organizations like the EU may wish to facilitate or even encourage onward mobility in a way that maximizes the potential of migrants to develop themselves and make sure that migrants are able to make the contributions that they are eager and willing, at least according to the findings of my study, to make. In either case, I would argue that we need to start thinking more creatively about the link between migration and integration and the need for new modes of governance and new meanings of citizenship. And with this in mind, I think it is really important to develop this transatlantic dialogue on migration. So thank you for this opportunity.